The emergence of sophisticated aerial drones over the past 3 years of Ukraine's brutal war with Russia has changed the shape of global warfare forever. However, it will also alter the way in which we recognize gallantry. While so-called kamikaze drones are used to attack targets and kill service personnel, the modern battlefield is also under scrutiny like never before from reconnaissance drones, which record footage around the clock. In October 2023, 20 months into the all-out war and by then 25 years old, Chorny was involved in the heavy fighting close to Avdiivka. Early on October 19th, he and 2 other Ukrainian fighters were tasked with restoring a defensive line of anti-tank mines that had been damaged by enemy fire. However, the area they needed to reach was heavily defended by Russian infantry. Their dramatic day began shortly after dawn when they advanced on foot, with their AK-74 Kalashnikov assault rifles in their hands. At the same time, they soon realizing they'd face around 20 enemy soldiers before they could replace the mines, their progress was slow. There was a constant firing between the 2 sides, who were only some 20 to 25 meters apart, he told me in an exclusive interview. So I decided to get behind enemy lines and attack them from the rear. In order to distract the enemy soldiers, we, his comrades, used a drone because we knew they would look to see if it was a reconnaissance drone or whether it was carrying ammunition. While they were distracted, I jumped out of the trench and ran alone to the enemy side, and then I jumped into the hole caused by a missile so I couldn't be seen. As I peered out, I could see the enemy soldiers still looking up at the drone. I then ran towards 4 Russian soldiers. I killed 3 of them immediately, and my comrade terminated the last one with a grenade. There were 3 more Russians hiding behind a blown-up armored vehicle only a few meters away. I threw a piece of metal to one side to distract them, and went around the opposite side and managed to kill all 3 of them. As I advanced through the field, a Russian soldier popped out of a shell crater and shot at me. But luckily, he missed. Then another Russian was shooting at me from one side, but I managed to shoot him too. I advanced towards the crater and then I heard him, the last Russian, run out of bullets. It makes a distinctive sound, so I shot him too. But Chorny still had 150 to 200 yards to advance before he reached the area that desperately needed remining. It was decided I would run to put the 2 heavy TM-62 anti-tank mines in position, he said. Meanwhile, it was agreed my comrades would give me covering fire. Sometimes I jumped into crater holes for cover. I laid one mine in position and threw another so that it was mission accomplished. At the same time, we found a Russian soldier hiding and we took him as a prisoner of war. It was odd because handmade knives had been sewn into his clothes all around his body. The prisoner told them that there was still 1 more Russian hiding in the field, and that he was unarmed and wanted to surrender too. By this point, having fought all day and it was night, Chorny was using night vision goggles as he walked ahead of the POW, while one of his comrades was behind the Russian to make sure he did not escape. I could see quite a long way ahead of me with my NVGs and felt safe. But then I saw a blown-up armored vehicle on its side. When I shot at the vehicle from close range, I heard several Russian voices from inside the vehicle where they were clearly sheltering from the cold. They didn't know there were only 2 of us, so I started shouting instructions for lots of men to do this and that. I was giving the impression they had no chance against so many of us. Then I shouted to them that they were surrounded. that they had one chance to come out and surrender, or we would start throwing in grenades and start shooting and they would all die. So they threw their weapons, grenades, and knives out of the vehicle, and they all came out. Then, 4 men emerged from the vehicle and were surprised there were only 2 of us. We then had 5 POWs in all to take back to the base. One of the Russians killed earlier in the day had a sophisticated sniper rifle, so Chorny and his comrades took that back too. Furthermore, key information from the POWs on the positions of Russian artillery led to these weapons being destroyed. Currently, talks are a cover. The offensive is real. Russian forces have effectively launched a large-scale summer offensive, reports Pavlo Shamshin, spokesperson for Ukraine's Kharkiv Operational Tactical Group, according to Union. Despite Moscow's statements about readiness for negotiations, Russian advances are intensifying across the front lines. In the south, Russian forces are trying to break through toward the administrative borders of Zaporizhzhia, Donetsk, and Dnipropetrovsk oblasts, indicating a coordinated effort to widen the battlefront. Commenting on the talks in Istanbul, Shamshin has dismissed the Russian delegation as nobodies, saying the negotiations should not be taken seriously. In his view, Russia is once again using such talks as a smokescreen to prepare for further attacks. Today, Russian and Ukrainian delegations are expected to meet in Istanbul for peace negotiations, marking the first direct talks since 2022. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attend, instead sending a lower-level delegation led by his aide, Vladimir Medinsky. Earlier, South Korea has repeatedly slammed the troop deployment and criticized the North for sending container loads of weapons, including missiles, to aid Russia's war against Ukraine. The nuclear-armed North has received significant technical support from Russia in return, Seoul claimed. In addition, after 6 months of fighting, Seoul's National Intelligence Service estimates that the North Korean forces' combat capability has significantly improved.